Hi, welcome to In 10. Our guest today is Abir Abdullah, my colleague and my friend from Dhaka, Bangladesh. Abir was a DART Asia Pacific Fellow in 2015 and most recently worked as a correspondent for the European Press Agency for over a decade. His works have appeared in the New York Times, the New Yorker, Time, Guardian, the Telegraph, Der Spiegel, and the New International. He's also a journalism trainer and was a jury member of the World Press Photo Selection Committee in 2011. So Abir, how would you describe the last month and a half of your work?
Well, it's pretty difficult as a photojournalist because normally we used to work without all these health measures, especially using masks, sanitizer, and sort of the PPE dress. So that was one thing that we never used to do. So that's part of the work we are now using all these safety measures to protect us from the virus. Apart from that, since I work now as a freelancer, last work I did on an NGO, on a donor agency, which is Asian Development Bank, and of course the assignment was about the situation, the corona situation in Bangladesh. But just in the beginning, when the so-called lockdown, we didn't call it lockdown. Our government announced 10 days general holiday, then extended more days. So that ended actually yesterday. So office are open, transport are open. Still, we are at the peak of the infection now. Yesterday, the calculation said that statistics said that 40 people died, and the infection number of infections are increasing day by day. So that's very panic situation when the infection level is high. Most of the offices and transport and public mobility has been increased.
So how would you describe how journalism has changed in the last month and a half? How has it changed for someone like you and your colleagues working in Bangladesh?
Well, I judge it in two ways. One is the financial, and another is the health wise. So financial wise, freelancers are of course having problem getting work, and especially it's very difficult because most of us, I mean, freelancers, they don't have any skills and knowledge about how to protect them. And there is also lack of training facilities, especially in this kind of situation, which I'm sure that DART will take some initiative in the future, especially for those countries where this kind of initiative are lacking. So I'm sure that this is the most of the issues, the most serious issue is about the health issues and how to protect ourselves from this infection. And second is the economic concern, because many newspapers, they are just simply cutting down the salaries, and there are many newspapers they cannot pay because the number of the readers gone down, and they stopped buying newspapers. So that's another difficult situation for the photographers. So I want to mention that two things. One is the logistical or health issue, how to work in this kind of situation. And the another thing is how economically photographers, including photojournalists, are affected in the last month, and hopefully, badly, unfortunately, they will suffer in the future also.
So in my discussions with journalists from our part of the world and other parts of the world, one of the key issues that has been coming up frequently is the financial uncertainty. So as a freelancer, how do you face up to this? How do you face up to the situation of not knowing whether you will be able to sell your work next week or week after or in a month's time. How do you prepare yourself for such a situation?
Yes, very, very difficult situation for the freelancers, especially when there is no job and there is a very long-term uncertainty when the situation will be back in the normal condition. So yes, that's very difficult to answer right at the moment, and because since there is no, clients, they can ask me to do the job. But if I ask me myself, so I'm also teaching. So since I'm teaching photojournalism and workshops, so I'm basically preparing myself to do online workshops on photojournalism or different issues to run, to start a new business or new income for in the absence of getting a job from the clients. So
And
that one of the initiative I'm going to take, and I'm preparing myself to do online workshops on photojournalism, or editing, or any other topics.
from an organization like DART, what can we do as members of the DART community to help freelancers face up to this situation in a stronger position?
Well, I think one of the things that DART can do is, especially since this is very much about health issue as well as economic issue. So first of all, we need some sort of training, especially how to work in this kind of situation. So that's one thing. And another thing is, yes, of course. So DART can also, identify real freelancer and who are really doing good jobs in this field, especially in photojournalistic field. So DART can do a survey and do an kind of make a list who are the real professional freelancers who are actually real practitioners, and DART can help them financially by giving some sort of loan basis or some sort of donation basis. I have seen that there are some organizations, they help the artist, and also National Geographic gives some small grant to photojournalists, especially who covers the corona pandemic. But as I said, that most of us, we don't have these skills and temperament or experience working in this kind of situations. So what about the rest of the others? So that is a very big challenge for the others, how to survive in this kind of situations. And of course, I'm sure that DART is thinking about how to support, especially photojournalists in this part of the world where training is lacking, where financial supports are lacking. So, but I would like to ask or request DART to make a survey, make a list, and think how they can help financially. It can be donation basis, it can be a loan basis, and also it can be assignment basis.
Right. Now, you spoke about skills. Are journalists, and especially photojournalists in Bangladesh and other parts of that region, are they skilled enough to take care of their mental well-being? We know that there's been a lot of attention in terms of physical safety that has been done. But are journalists aware of the skills that are needed to be mentally prepared, not only to face up to the pandemic that is there right now, but also the financial situation that you spoke about?
I don't think so, because yes, we know a little bit about the healthcare things, how to protect from the infection, like the physical part. But the mental part, which is very important, because every day the photographers are going out in the field, visiting in the hospitals, going into the crowded, especially country like Bangladesh. So they are getting some sort of trauma because they live with their family, with the small children. So some sort of mental support or mental counseling is lacking. So I think simultaneously according with the financial support, there should be some organizations they can also do this mental counseling to get rid of from the trauma or fear. As you know, we learned from Dart in when I attended the fellowship how to overcome the trauma and how to do the traumatized coverage. So that was very helpful. So I think that kind of workshops and training and skills are very much needed, and especially even as you asked me that about what about the financial things. So there are no particular organization in Bangladesh who are supporting um, media professionals, especially photographers, in terms of financial way.
Right. Now, being a very senior photojournalist based out of Bangladesh, and I know that you worked in some of the most demanding assignments, like the Nepal aftermath of the Nepal earthquake and numerous disasters in Bangladesh. How would you advise a young photographer based in Dhaka who's now preparing to cover the monsoon? We know that there's already been a large storm, there could be others. What kind of advice would you give someone who's preparing to cover the monsoon, knowing that the pandemic is over there, still there, and also the fact that, let's say that that person is a freelancer? What would you tell to that person?
Well, I think the first thing now is, since this is very much about the infection and disease, so first thing you have to be, the photographer has to be very much careful about their health and the protection. And of course, the mental courage, physical capability to travel. Even sometimes you have to work a whole day or without food or with small amount of food. So I think the young photographer, they need to build up some sort of mental and physical strength, as well as they should be aware of the physical, spatially the risk factor of the infection, and they should maintain all the suggestions from the health experts, and also be positive and be strong mentally, because anybody can be infected. So when you are a photojournalist, you are in this kind of profession. It's like you have to face it today or tomorrow, but you have to be positive and you have to be strong.
Right. And finally, Abir, how do you think journalism has changed in the last 2 months? What would be the lasting impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on journalism?
Well, I think I'll analyze this it in two different ways. One is the lack of information from the mainstream media, because it's difficult to talk because informations have been manufactured, especially the numbers of infection, numbers of deaths. So that caused a real problem to the readers, because readers didn't take that seriously. If our mainstream media could give the exact numbers of infections and deaths, I think the general people could have been more serious, and they could have been think about the danger of this infection. So that's one part. And of course, the readers, especially the readers from the print media, have been shrinking, have been decreased. So that's another challenge for the media business itself. And I saw that many newspapers, they already, sacked their staffs to survive. So that's another. There is a big shift of journalists losing jobs financially. They are in a great trouble. So I analyze this is it like two ways. Like, one is the financial effect, and another is the credibility of the media um, uh, with the readers, because of the lack of information.
Thank you, Abir. Thank you very much for taking time to speak to us.